Hello, lovely listeners. This transmission is coming to you live from San Diego, California. Thank you so much to everyone who messaged me about my last episode. I love hearing from you, and it means so much to me that my voice is heard and appreciated. In the spirit of transparency, I want to share that I have no idea what this season is going to look like or even what the publishing schedule will be. I'm feeling guided to surrender more deeply into my heart, get out of my head, and see where each episode takes me. I'm throwing away the rulebook and just speaking through the purity of my intention. The purity of intention for this episode is to speak my truth, and I found when I do this, it is magnetizing. In the last episode, I shared that I'm a 6'2" projector in human design, and I try not to pigeonhole myself by adhering to the rules. I definitely can see how a lot of these personal identifiers like astrology, human design, the Myers-Briggs, all of these can hold us back or they can create too rigid of an identity. But I've really found that the strategy for human design works for me. As a 6'2" role model hermit, I'm here to be a leader and a guide. And let me explain. My consciousness is here to guide, but my body is a 2. And it's meant to introvert really hard and stay home. This is the ultimate paradox because I'm pretty adventurous. I love exploring and seeing new things, but the strategy for a projector is to wait for the invitation. So if I don't have clear guidance coming from my solar plexus, or if someone doesn't invite me to go do something, I do not initiate. I have learned not to initiate invitations because they tend to backfire on me. There are a lot of limitations of this type. One of them being is that society does not embrace waiting for invitations, but rather urges us to act. And another limitation, which I experience deeply, is that any form of rejection can set you back in your objectives. And wow, do I get burnt from rejection? A projector can only be a real authority in the eyes of others when we're invited and not when we are trying to impose. We should not look at the opinions of people, but instead wait for the right invitation. So as I mentioned, the strategy for projectors is to wait for the invitation, and this strategy goes hand in hand with another framework that I use, the gene keys. One of my gene keys is gene key 12. It has the shadow of vanity and the siddhi, that's Siddhi, the siddhi is purity. Siddhi is the term given for a spiritual or seemingly magical power, which is obtained through rigorous and accomplished spiritual practices, such as yoga and meditation. The Sanskrit word means perfection, accomplishment, or success in English. So I find that my siddhi of purity, which is the gene keys, aligns with my strategy of a projector to wait for the invitation, because anything else feels like I'm imposing or treading water, that feeling of dog paddling and not going anywhere. So when I'm pure with my intentions, I'm aligning with a higher level of wisdom and truth. I feel liberated from the shackles of societal conditioning. In this place, we love ourselves fiercely, and we become fully alive without the need for applause or approval. This is why many of my best friendships were found on the internet. Almost all of my guests on my podcast I've met online, and then we've become good friends. Internet relationships are so important to me because I can have my body in the comfort of my home, surrounded by my beautiful, quiet environment where I feel safe and connected to my true self. But my mind can be off in the ethers, endlessly learning new things and engaging with amazing humans on the internet. Of course, I'm so very human, and a lot of what I'm finding is about deprogramming how I'm taught to live, which is really hard. It often looks like making tough decisions where I'm not sure how to surrender. It's really moving from the intellect to intuition, and this requires total surrender. The literal definition of surrender means to melt into something higher. And I'll give you a real-time example of this. In the last episode, you may have heard me talk about my podcast program and how I'm now accepting applications for this program. This was my intellect speaking. My intellect was saying, hey, you've got to push out your program into the world if you're publishing a podcast. And this is really not aligned for me anymore. As I sit deeper into my intuition, something else is trying to come through. The thing is, I can't always hear it or feel it if I listen to what my mind is telling me what I should do. It's about settling into the unknown, the void. And as I'm speaking this aloud, I'm noticing how much of my existence lives in the void. And that's okay. Some of my best creative work comes from emptiness. So I invite you to explore how clarity can paradoxically be found in the uncertainty and the wildness of life. We are retemplating, we are rewiring, we are recalibrating our DNA. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're leading the edge of this new paradigm as well. Hiding won't keep you safe anymore. Your safety now comes through birthing your magnetic power. It's my intention in this podcast to peel back the layers of society and culture to understand what it means to be human. Throughout my podcast, we talk a lot about consciousness and ways to access higher consciousness. But only until recently am I truly ready to break down the energetics of my content creation process. I really feel like getting meta and talking about it more openly. I really haven't felt like creating content lately, so I didn't. It wasn't until just within the past few weeks that I feel a new surge of energy emerge, which I now feel called to share. So I recently published my 2021 book reading list, which wasn't available a moment earlier. I'll put the list to all the books I read last year in the show notes. If I tried to create this list anytime sooner, it would have felt off. But as I listen to my intuition and get out of my intellect, this is what and how I'm guided to share. Yes, it's 5 months into 2022, and it doesn't make sense in the head, but it makes perfect sense for me to publish this now. And you can find the link to the reading list in the show notes. I've been studying the science of epigenetics and merging it with my core values. This type of existence allows me to manifest pretty much anything that I desire. That's how I manifested my current dream home in San Diego. I truly believe that we can literally evolve our genes into different states of consciousness. That's why I'm so passionate about what I do. I create content around true spirituality, letting go, how to remove the obstacles to access these higher states of consciousness. We're experiencing a huge shift in our consciousness on the planet right now. When you let your values guide your time, you really start living and existing in a different dimension. So I invite you to allow your values to guide your time and do an experiment. See what comes through or what you end up manifesting. It's been a game changer for me, and it's allowed the most incredible invitations to come my way. Let me give you an example of this. I recently got invited to a private event that would have never happened if I continued to live in the old paradigm. The people at this event are global leaders who have inspired me for years online. And the best analogy I can think of is that it's like we're in this video game and you can only get to the next level by taking a leap into experiences where you have no idea what's coming next. There may be dragons and scary characters, but at least it's not the same level with the same characters that you've been seeing and playing with for your entire life. You can only truly evolve if you're willing to take that sometimes scary leap of faith in the video game of your life. Are you ready to access that next level? Just as this episode isn't planned at all through my mind, it's just coming through my throat, my voice in this very moment. I have zero expectations for what's to come of this next season. I just woke up today and feel like I have something to express, so here I am, using my voice to communicate what's on my heart. You can find all of the show notes and other episodes on my website, artofhumanity.io. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a magical day.